Welcome back to another completion video. Today we're delving into Lumberjack. Waking up in a strange cabin in the middle of a forest, we're tasked with chopping down trees, getting buff, and helping fairies. Can we figure out what mysteries the forest holds? Our goal is to use our axe to chop down trees, collect logs, and after doing so we can bring them to the chipper to be processed into some coins. Inside the cabin we have our bench that can help us get buff, so we can chop more trees and make more coin. The last tool at our disposal is the grinding wheel to sharpen the axe. And then finally, the main task, collecting 1,000 elder tree logs. Let's get to chopping. I first start out by getting the lay of the land, all the tools and machines we'll be using throughout the game. I go outside, talk to our good old friend the Gnome, who recommends we start chopping away. Chopping down the first tree of the game gets me the achievement Chop Chop for chopping my first tree down. Immediately after taking one of those logs we got from the chopping our first tree down, I threw that sucker in the wood chipper and got equivalent exchange for harvesting one log. I then worked until nightfall, and in Lumberjacked you must get to the safety of your cabin at nighttime until you can afford a lantern that will allow you to work throughout the night. After making my way back in the cabin, after a full day of chopping and exchanging, I hit the bench and upgrade my character for the first time, unlocking Pumped Up for purchasing an upgrade at the weight bench. Heading back outside for a brief few moments before nightfall, we find the trap fairy in the back of the gnome's shop. We decide to have a little chat. And in the forest of Lumberjack, gnomes have kidnapped and imprisoned fairies as a source of electricity in the game. Talking with the trapped leader fairy, we learn of this situation, and we are then asked to help free the fairies throughout the forest that are being exploited for power. This can be seen through the shining lights of different colors in the forest and the sky. We decide to get a good night's rest to get my energy up, as well as start a new log chopping day. Working through the day, upgrading my guy some more on the bench, starting a third day, we casually chopping down trees, and throughout the money I get through the wood chipper, I unlock coin operated for earning a cumulative total of 100 coins so far in the game. Carrying on with our job, the days pass by, filled with log chopping fun, some more bench workouts to upgrade our guy, and the occasional mushroom gathering to work towards the drone and the lantern that we saw in the shop. After chopping down 97 of the 10,000 trees, I finally had enough to sharpen my axe, which will allow me to chop down better tiered wood, which is farther out into the forest, which also provides more money per log. And as you can see, you can probably get a good idea of how the gameplay loop works in this game. Upgrading the axe to a sharpness level of 2 gets me sharp thinking for sharpening the axe. Now that my axe is sharpened, I have upped my stats. The grind starts now. Once you get going, it comes down to how many trees you can cut down and how fast you can process the logs. After continuing to work on the forest cutting down trees, I eventually sell some logs to earn my 10,000th cumulative coin, getting me money bags achievement. It had taken me 435 trees in order to get the amount of logs needed to get that amount. Even though I still have the basic axe, you can start to see how open and barren the area becomes after going crazy for money, and the map only gets bigger. Starting the day fresh, I made my way deep into the forest with the goal of freeing my first fairy friend. Like before, the gnomes have captured the fairies to use them to generate electricity for their tree felling project. After finding what looks like an electric setup in the middle of the forest, I go up to the glowing orb in the middle, break it to free the fairy for magical prisoner. After returning back home to refresh, I turn to full lumberjack again, nothing but cutting trees, processing logs, then getting buff, repeating over and over again, gaining strength over the forest. After hundreds of trees later, I cut almost every tree type, whether that's the basic $1 tree, the $5 variety, or more valuable $10 logs, and also more. After what felt like forever, I cut down my 1,000th tree to get deforestation. At this point, I felt like a double agent, as I was both freeing the fairies as well as cutting down every tree in my way. After my 1,000th tree, however, I decided to change my ways and focus on helping the local fairies. No longer should they remain prisoner in their own forest, watching their history fade around them. Getting stronger by the day, I slowly make my way through the forest to each one of the fairy prisoners in the forest. After eventually freeing all of them, I made my way back to the fairy leader behind the gnome shop. The leader tells me about 3 boilers that the gnomes need in the forest, and that there is no going back once I start down this path of helping the fairies. As I want to follow through with helping of the fairies, I get some thanks and am told the leader will break out to unlock them for me. As the leader breaks the container and flies off, I get broken bonds for finding all the fairies and freeing the leader. Similar to that of the fairies that I had to free, the boilers are each deep in the forest far from the cabin. I continue to gather logs to get stronger, making my journey into the forest easier each time. After cutting down some logs, I catch a sight of a boiler at the corner of my eye. I book it straight to the contraption, cutting down some trees as I see it. Hitting the control panel to the boiler I had found immediately turned the sky red, and at this point there was no going back. I had angered the gnomes greatly. I also received the achievement Whistleblower for sabotaging one of the boilers. After teleporting back to the cabin, I can see that our gnome friend is no more. and the sky is filled with what I believe to be drones from the gnomes. Seeing as time has been frozen and I was being hunted down by the gnomes, I made it my main priority to finish what I started. After destroying all 3 boilers that the gnomes placed in the forest, I made it back to the cabin and jumped into the once locked hole out back. In doing so, got the achievement Escapee for finishing the Saboteur ending. The ending cinematic showed many explosions throughout the forest. I believe this to be the drones falling out of the sky, but for the fairies caring so much about the forest, blowing it all up with the gnomes inside seemed kind of counterintuitive. Now it was time for Phase 2, or Run 2, in this new game. My main goal was to support the gnomes, which, like our gnome friend said in the start, was to chop down and collect 1,000 elder logs, and eventually the whole forest. I also made it my goal to get any other achievements that I were missed in the first playthrough of the game. For the sake of keeping this video to the point and not dragging on already played out parts, I worked my way through the ranks once more. I chopped some trees, sharpened my axe a few times, and hit the weights once more. Now that I got somewhat caught up to my stats in the first run, I started towards the main goal of collecting 1,000 elder logs. Nothing much occurred during this time other than finding 3 of the elder tree patches in the forest, slowly chopping them down, upgrading my character, and repeating that process over and over. After collecting 1,400 elder logs in total, I had enough money from processing the logs to fully upgrade the rest of my stats. Upgrading my walking speed to level 10 to max everything out got me the achievement Beefy for fully upgrading my body stats. Now that my body and axe were fully sharpened, I was able to become the ultimate gnome weapon. I was able to get the buzzsaw from our gnome buddy in the store. This buzzsaw was very important for finishing the rest of the gnome story, as it made chopping down mass amount of trees a lot easier, as it automatically processed the logs as I chopped the trees down. Picking up the buzzsaw from the gnome got me Buzzsaw for unlocking the final saw. Now, to finish up the game, we just needed to reach our new goal of chopping down 10,000 trees, which just so happened to be every tree in the game. And after much fun, had chopping all the trees down, I chopped the very fast one. The Lorax could not save this forest, that's for sure. After hitting the requirement, I talked with our buddy who made the shop go into the air, revealing an elevator. While riding the elevator, I got Stooge for finishing the subordinate ending. The elevator once opened up to reveal a creature and what I can only assume was us being eating. Then finally, we got Thorough for finishing both the gnome and fairy endings. I hope you enjoyed the video with all the log chopping shenanigans. Stay tuned for future uploads. Thanks for watching.